If you're teaching close reading and you're not quite getting the full impact of it, or your lessons just aren't where you want them to be, I have a few options for you. The first is a free guide that you can download right away. The link is in the description below. There are 2 weeks of lesson plans and a couple of reading passages for you to get started. Plus, you'll have instructions on what to teach each day. Or you can check out the YouTube playlist right here, and you can, see some of the things in action if you're more of a visual learner. When I first started teaching close reading, it was a disaster. I didn't know how to take any kind of close reading strategy and adapt it so my students would understand these higher level kind of thinking strategies. Once I practiced though, I got really good at it, but I wasn't organized, at all. So show of hands, how many of you get so annoyed with yourself that you're right in the middle of something, but you need one thing and it's either across the room and you have to stop what you're teaching or you can't find it at all. So extra irritating if you know you put something down where you think you put it and it's nowhere to be found. The number one thing I lost, I think, was my teacher scissors. I think I still don't know where those things are. But let me help you get organized so you can avoid this. I'm going to tell you a few things that I use for my close reading lessons, and then I want you to make a designated spot in your classroom to keep all of your supplies. Now, chances are you have all of these things in your classroom already, but if not, there is a link to my Amazon Close Reading page, and you can purchase everything there. Now, it is an affiliate link. You won't pay extra, but if you do click on something, then I get like a penny. But if thousands of you buy things through that link, then maybe Jeff Bezos will send me to space. You never know. Anyway, it's there if you need it. The first thing you're going to need is your reading passages, of course. But if you're stuck with which kind of reading passages are the best ones for your students, or where to find them, or how to write your own, you can check out that video in the playlist. But organization-wise, you can keep your reading passages in binders. I never really was a binder teacher because I never remembered to put things back in the binder. I always kept mine in file folders, and I put them in a filing cabinet, and then I could just grab them and go, and it was easy to put them back when I was done. You will need a reading passage for yourself, and then your students will need their own. So you can either make a class set of them. Sometimes I had color ones. I would keep the colors and I would give them the black and white ones, and that way, they could see the colored one up there, but they, to save ink, they had a black and white copy. Each student will also need a clipboard. There will be times where you will want your students to get up and move around. Sometimes you'll want them at their desks. They don't need a clipboard, but we're going to talk a lot about partner work and moving around in transitions, and it's just easier to, to keep your kiddos moving around. And if they're on the floor, they're going to need a clipboard so they can annotate or do some partner work on their passage, and just keep the clipboard right there. I find that the more I have them working with partners, which is the next video, by the way, or the more I keep them moving around and changing their scenery, the less brain breaks I need to do. Now let's talk about writing utensils. They can obviously use their pencils. I was never a big marker teacher, but I always had markers and I always had gel pens. For whatever reason, I just had them. But I didn't want my students to use them on the daily basis because I think that they wouldn't use them properly and they would just color or make a mess or anything. And I don't know, I think I was just kind of picky about markers. I would prefer them to use a crayon. But I wanted to make a special occasion, special. And so during, our close reading, especially if I wanted them to do something that was hard or an activity that I knew they particularly didn't like, I would pull out gel pens, markers, colored pencils, anything that they didn't use daily, and we would do that. It would just kind of make it a little sweeter for them, and it was something that just made, livened it up a little bit, made it more fun. I don't use a lot of paper during close reading. I don't do a lot of worksheets. Instead, I prefer to use dry erase boards because, that saves on the paper and they're so easy to use. So obviously you'll need dry erase boards and markers. I have a class set that I accumulated over the years. I have big ones and small ones. I have this size, which is like the size of a piece of printer paper, and I have smaller ones. I use these for close reading because I wanted more than a one-word answer. So if you do have smaller ones, you know, I would prefer a bigger one about this size for my students to do things, so they can write a sentence about their vocabulary, or they can maybe make, you know, a main idea graphic organizer and just draw circles for the main idea and make a web for the supporting details. So this is going to be a better size for close reading. If you don't have these and you fancy like a DIY project, you can go to like Menards, Home Depot, Lowe's, and you can get a gigantic piece of, I don't know what they call it, like I think they just call it whiteboard, and I think they use it for like shower backgrounds, or you know, something. Anyway, it's in the home improvement stores, and they will cut it for you. You can buy a gigantic sheet and they'll cut it into sizes like this for you, and then you just kind of got to sand the covers, or the corners, so they're not rough, and that way your students don't scrape themselves. But you know, that would be a much more cost efficient way to get your dry erase boards if you're just starting out in your classroom and you don't have a set of these. During the week, you're going to be making a lot of notes on chart paper. So obviously you'll need a big piece that your students can all see. If your school doesn't provide the large chart papers, you can use a piece of construction paper. Just try to make it as big as you can, because you'll want, if you're sitting on your carpet and you want the students in the back to see it. We also do this during interactive writing, which is another video in this close reading playlist if you need to know how to do interactive writing with your students during close reading. But they will come up and they will write on the chart about the topic of their close reading. And so then obviously if you need you know, chart paper, you also need chart markers. Now these are my favorite. If you know, if I had stock in I'd be rich if I had stock in Sharpie. So this is the Sharpie flip chart marker. They come in a bunch of different colors. There's also pink and brown. I don't have those right here. These are the best chart markers. Like, this is a hill I will die on to say that these are the best. You know, I just, you can't convince me otherwise. So they have a bullet tip. Let me see if I can show you on the orange. I'm going to do it like a makeup tutorial. I don't even know if this is working. Anyway, I don't know if you can see, but it has a bullet tip and not a chisel tip. Chisel tips are too hard for your students to like position the marker the right way. So I just avoid those at all cost, especially when I want them to write and feel successful and not frustrated. So I always use these. Also, these are pretty strong. And so when your students press hard, which they will, this does not get pushed into the marker. It stays, you know, right where it is. And, you know, I usually buy a set of these and it lasts me all year. I do, again, I keep telling you weird eccentricities about me. They do come in a set of two. They have two black markers in a set, and I always keep one for myself because they're my favorite, and then I let a student use the other one, so I always keep mine in a special place. Okay, so anyway, these are on the Amazon wish list if you don't know how to get these, but these are the best markers for chart marker. You know, I like them because they're durable. The last thing I would suggest getting, you don't need a physical object for this. I'll show you what I do have, but it's some kind of transition sound or signal. So you don't even need to get something, you know, you just kind of need to have it in place. And so that's why I'm kind of telling you about it now, because it's just something to consider when you are organizing all of your close reading things. So a lot of times you'll have your students working with partners, and maybe they're having a discussion and you want their attention back on you. You're going to need to give them a signal and practice, and you know, tell them what it is and practice ahead of time, and that way they know it's time to turn their attention back on you. Or if they are sitting, you know, in partners around the room and you'd like them to return to their desk, or you're sitting at your desk, you'd like them to come back to your carpet, you know, any kind of transition you need a signal for. So you can even do like if something according to your reading passage. So if you're reading about the water cycle, you can do like a call and answer thing. My kids always liked, you know, when I say water, you say cycle, and I'd say water, and they'd go cycle, you know, and practice that ahead of time, of course. And then that way, anytime you wanted to change it, they knew to call and respond to it, even if you changed the words. So that's a good way to do it too. But I wanted to show you this. I have a, this part's portable, and I'll show you the other part here in a minute. This is just a regular old battery operated doorbell. The part that is making the sound is plugged in down here, but it's nice, and you can change the rings, but this one is mine. So It's funny, my cat is like, what is going on? So, and you can change that. My students actually chose this one because it was just kind of, it wasn't too shrill or anything, so that was just a good one for this. This works pretty well. You know, I can plug the other end in the wall. That part doesn't need to be anywhere near me. They can hear it. It's pretty loud, as you could hear. And I have Velcro on the back, and I ended up sticking this to my Elmo cart. And that way, if I needed to bring it, I would just reach around and I would push it, or I could take it off and to carry it back to maybe my easel if I wanted to take it to the carpet. You know, that way I could carry it around if I needed to, but I wouldn't lose it because I would go put it back on the Elmo cart. That is, as long as I remember to stick it back on the Elmo cart. But anyway, it's a great tool for transitions in the classroom, but you know, again, you can also use your own you know, chants or signal words, or sing a song, or playing music works too. But whatever you're doing, make sure you've practiced it ahead of time. Don't expect them to just respond to a transition that you have not practiced. This is all like a little spoiler alert, because the next couple videos are going to be about working with partners and transitions in classroom management. So do you have a spot in your classroom that's a designated place to keep all your close reading supplies? Now remember, you don't need a lot of supplies, and all of this might seem like obvious. You know, you want to keep a spot for all your things, but I was always so busy trying to learn how to teach close reading that I wasn't really organized, and I didn't stay all in one place. So when you get a second, it just takes a second, go in your classroom, gather up your gel pens, your chart markers, your clipboards, you know, and get them all in one designated space in your classroom. If this was helpful, make sure you click like so more teachers like you see it, and make sure to click on subscribe, because in the next couple of videos, I'm going to teach you how to ramp up our close reading series and talk about classroom management so you will avoid any kind of off-task behavior while you're teaching close reading.